Well, first off, of course, thank you on behalf of the VR Society for coming today. I know this is an important day for you. I was going to read through some of the points of your bio, but I think the most important is her most recent achievement. Victoria was just named as one of the women nominated in the Power of Women Impact Report in Variety. So congratulations.
They're having a lunch today, and I decided to come here instead of there. So you're my lunch date. I just brought the power to you, I guess. I guess they think I was powerful.
Absolutely. We are thrilled you are here today. So, I know we only have 20 minutes for a fireside chat, which doesn't have a fire, but I'm good with that. So let's get started with a few of the questions. I think for a lot of folks attending the event today, they've got this one burning question, and that is, what's the most pressing question that if you and the Marvel Studios team are excited to tell stories about in the Marvel Universe? Are you excited, basically, to tell stories from the Marvel Universe in VR?
Listen, we're excited to utilize every new level of technology that exists to tell a story. I think it's important for us. We are dedicated to all technology. If you dream it, we probably will use it. So this is to you, the dreamers. Keep on dreaming, because we would like to tell our stories in all kinds of formats. We're still trying to figure out, though, what VR means for us, as everybody else is trying to figure out what it means for them. So it's sort of kind of the early stages. It's kind of like wine tasting. You're just going through every table, and then at the end you buy a bottle. So we haven't bought a bottle yet, but we're in that stage of tasting.
Cool. So I imagine that a lot of the folks in the audience today perhaps have been knocking at your door, trying to marry your content with their new creations. So has it been an onslaught? Has it been a trickle? How has it been for Marvel being approached by VR creators? It's
been great to see all of you. We see somebody new every week. Listen, we welcome all companies that have new ideas and new approaches. And yeah, a lot of people have knocked on the door, called, tried to get to see us. We're pretty busy. We have 9 movies going on right now that either we are prepping, shooting, posting, or delivering to the world. So we're a little limited with time, but there's been a lot of people knocking at the door, and it's been really nice to see what they have to show us.
So VR early adopters were definitely from sort of more the gaming side of the industry. And do you think that live action content creators should take a little bit of a lesson from the gaming industry and gaming storytelling? I guess the question more appropriately, is it a passive experience for an audience member in VR, or do you think it's going to be a more active experience like from the gaming community?
I think it's a new adventure, and I think it should be whatever it can be. I don't think we should limit it to what the gaming divisions have done. I think we should take what's good from there and utilize it. Less violence would be a good thing. But I think it's a good way to sort of allow the mind to flow and see places where perhaps in gaming you can't do. I think we should learn from what the stereo experience has given us. I think we should take it from what parks have given us over the years. The Imagineering for us at Disney is, to me, is like Pandora's box. Every time we go there, we learn something new. Yeah. So we should take what works from every department and then utilize the bright minds of VR and up-and-coming VR companies and give it the very special ingredient. Visual effects facilities will teach you other things. I think everybody that has worked in technology can teach you something, so I wouldn't exclude anyone at all.
That makes sense. So at Marvel, it's a busy company. You guys are making 1 million movies, and
just 9.
certainly the conversations about VR have come up. But I think one of the questions that the audience might have is, where are those conversations happening? Are they happening in production meetings, post-production meetings? Are they being driven by marketing, exhibitors, Disney? Where are they sort of generating inside your company?
You know, we talk about everything everywhere, whether it's on the hallway or in a conference room. Because we're so busy, we just use every minute of time we have in the day. I think that we need to figure out what the VR experience is in liaison to our stories. And that's really the most important thing. We don't look at it from a perspective of selling, we look at it from a perspective of how do we get you interested in what we have, and what kind of story can we give you? Is it an extension of one of our stories? Is it a brand new story? Can VR give us what the one-shots short films gave us? Is that what we need to do since it's the new thing that is coming up and how people want to be entertained? But if it's not really fueled by the story, we're not going to go for the gadget because we don't understand it, so we won't be able to tell you the story. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, if we don't base it in story, you're not going to like it. That's what we think. It's worked for us to stay steady and honest with the story that moves us and you, so that's how we want to make that link.
So you were really responsible for the first part of the Marvel Studio sort of embracing a technology that had to deal with dimension, and that was 3D, of course, back in 2008. Whew, long time ago now. One of the questions I have is, back then there was a lot of conversation about the technique of capturing 3D versus creating it digitally. Do you liken the conversations in VR to that, or is it potentially more of a monumental change, such as moving from an analog filmmaking to digital? Where do you see it right now?
I don't know that I know. I have to be honest. I mean, I'm trying to figure out what is it and how do we use it as a tool. Like, it's very clear for us what a hammer can do. We know how to tell that story. So we just need to figure out how do people want to use it? Is it something that is going to be shown outside of a theater before you go see one of our movies? So you have a little booth and you have an extension of the story. Is that what's happening? I know there's plenty places in China that are doing that, and I'm sure that is happening worldwide as well. Is it that you want to have a very specific place where people go and have the experience? Is it something that you do at home? If you do it at home, what is it that people want to see or do and experience? Is it something that they just want to free fall, or do they want to engage in a story that tells you something else of our character? I don't, we keep on searching. We're in that place, and we haven't really taken big leaps because we don't know quite sure where to go with it yet, but we're investigating. Once we go, we'll go full on, as you know. But we are still in that stage of investigating.
That makes sense. So this is a bit of a technology question. So clearly a lot of what we've seen to date has been 360, two-dimensional video in VR headsets. But do you think that stereo has a place in VR, and then do you ultimately think that those are two technologies that are paired together indistinguishably at the end of the day?
I think stereo in VR is a must. I have to be honest with you. When I see it flat and I see it in stereo, the experience is different.
Yay, stereo.
Well, I mean, like, listen, it creates a lot of work for me to say that.
True.
But I think if you're going to embrace it, you need to embrace it all. I think you need to grab it and go it at the fullest that you can. And I think that somehow if you see it in 2D as one experience and then you see it in 3D and your heart will stop. Most of the stuff that we've seen that is in stereo, it is unforgettable. So if we were to do it, that's how I would approach it.
That's great. A side question, sort of about VR, but more specifically about your passion issue, and that is you're known for having passion for supporting careers of women in the entertainment industry. And do you have any advice for any of the young women in the audience today about who are looking at VR as a potential career opportunity?
Well, first and foremost, I support all careers. I don't believe the rooms are good if it's all women. I think it should be 50-50.
That's great.
So I'm not for, let's just have it all a girl team. This is not how it is. what has been a struggle is to have the 50-50. I'm usually the only woman in the room, or one of two, or one of very few. So my advice is for the men, and there's a lot of you here today. So my advice is that you will be better if you're balanced with a 50% of women in your rooms, in your teams, in your companies, in your adventures. I think we bring something that perhaps you do have, some of you do have it, some of you don't. And I think it's really important to gain it from the balance. But it's not just women. I think it's about the difference in who we are as people. I think that we have smart, bright people of all kinds of colors and kinds internationally, everywhere you look. And I think that to limit who you have in your companies and who you have as part of your teams is just limiting you. So I encourage all of you to grow. I encourage the women to actually knock on the doors. One of the things that I have spoken about before is men usually go after a job if they know 40–50% of what the job requires. 40 or 50%, and you're all smirking, you know who you are. You go out there and you knock on the door because you go, hey, I got some of the qualifications and the rest of it, I learn it. Women go after the job if they have 97–98% of what's written as a qualification needed for the job. And they beat themselves up for the 2% that they don't have. I would encourage the women to remember that 98% is usually 48–38% more than some of the people that are applying for the job. So you need to get your asses out there and apply. And for the men, I say continue applying. There's a lot to learn. But once you create a team, find the balance. It's better for us today, and it's better for all of our children. And some of you have children, and if you don't, you have nieces and nephews, or you know children in the world. It is better when you have balance. I encourage all of you to try to do that.
Well said, well said. I have one last quick VR question, and it's not a prepared question, but it's about the fact that, I think 3D was the first part of developing an immersive entertainment experience, which took a person deeper into the story. Now with VR and potentially someday AR or MR, is there a response?
Wait, what's MR?
Mixed reality, which is sort of an alternative.
Is that happening now?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Right?
So wait. So what does that mean?
It's somewhat associated with AR
Will it be like
as well.
4D VR?
It's kind of when you're placing digital images into the real world, right? So you have glasses.
But isn't that AR?
It is, but there's a bit of a fight as to what it's going to be called. MR,
Okay.
AR is still going on out there.
Okay.
But I guess the question really is there a responsibility as a content creator if you're going to place an individual in an even deeper level of engagement with the content to police the content to some degree, take a little more thought as to how it's going to potentially affect that young person engaging in that experience?
Well, the word policing content is not necessarily how I would put it.
Great.
I think you need to be selective on what you want to put in kids' minds. I mean, I think that we have a responsibility as storytellers to engage and create hope and adventure as opposed to violence and despair. That's how I see the world, not necessarily how a lot of you do, but if you do it the way we do it, perhaps you can do that with your projects. I think one of the things for me that and I've seen a lot of VR in the last year, is a lot of it sometimes, I mean, my heart goes from 0 to 300 in a very short amount of time, and I can only imagine what will that do with certain kids or certain people in general. So there should be a disclaimer of some sort, because at some point somebody may have a bit of a heart attack there. But content is always important. to be something that inspires. And I think that one of the things that I will encourage, whether is the new generation of gamers, which I think is VR. So much of what we put in front of our children makes an impact forever. And I think everyone here is here for a reason. You either have something to sell or something to buy. If you're selling or buying, and this is something that you know will affect people, why not affect them for the right reasons? Why not make a difference that way? I mean, like, that to me is not policing. That to me is a choice, is making a choice of content. And I get it that everyone likes to get onto a game to shoot things. Listen, we do it in our movies, and we try to do it less and to do it in a way that it is not a shot to the heart. But if you can create something that inspires the mind and explores a different place of thought and hope or invention, why wouldn't you do that? I mean, that's what I want for my kid. And I usually look up to you, the makers, to provide that for us. And that's the challenge that I have every day at Marvel. I sit there and I go, do I want my 6-year-old to watch this? By the way, she hasn't seen any of our movies, but she tells people she has, but she hasn't. She's gone on record to tell the whole school that she's seen it. But why not? I mean, am I proud of this or am I not so proud of it? Because I have to explain it in the playground to the parents. So if I would say to all of you, to each and every one of you that is selling something or buying, because you have the power to make a change. We sit here and we do these things, and I know there is a business, but somewhere along the way we make an impact. What I want to say to you is, make a choice of what that impact can be. And maybe by making that one choice, you can make a teeny bit of change. And if it's not about that, I swear to God, I don't know what this is all about.
Yep. Well said. Well said. And finally, what you've all been waiting for, at least part of what you've been waiting for, on November 4th.
My song, I'm going to sing.
Oh, you're going to sing? Okay, go ahead.
No, not today.
You are known for good songs, that's for sure. Disney Marvel Studios is releasing their next film. Live in the lineup, Doctor Strange. Kevin Feige is quoted as saying, there are sequences in the film that 3D is actually necessary to tell a dimensional story of what's happening through visuals. Is this Marvel's lead-in to a more immersive audience experience for future films, or maybe VR?
Well, listen, this is Doctor Strange, and it's the multiverse. And how else do you tell what all these different dimensions are if you don't tap into what 3D can give you? I mean, if there's one thing, you know, we look at a lot of our movies and you go, should this be in 3D? Yes, it can give you something. Should this be IMAX? Yes, it can give you something. Should this be Atmos? Yes, it can. Should we do EDR? Yes, it could give you. Then you get to Doctor Strange, and it's just, it's like, of course, it has to be in stereo. What the experience gives you, I hope, I mean, you will be the judges, is it's just a different feeling. It's a different place. We take you to different places where we haven't been ourselves as filmmakers, and I hope as an audience you trust us to take the ride. I think hopefully you'll enjoy it.
All right, let's roll the clip.
Here we go.
Glasses on.